Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our weekly check-ins here at I Am Luna You. I'm so happy that you have joined us today. I'm super excited because we have a special guest. But before I introduce her, I want to tell you guys a little bit more about Luna You. Luna You is a maternal well-being program where we help to walk alongside women to help them find their voice from the inside out. We give them a free Fitbit and a blood pressure cuff for the first 25 women. So if you know a woman here in Rhode Island who is currently expecting, please send them our way. We want them to join in on this so that they can be in control of their own numbers and be their own advocates. And so if you have any questions during this, or if you have any more information that you would like to know about Luna U, just write that in the comments or send us a private message. We would love to connect with you. So I am super excited today. We've had some great guests that have joined us week in and week out, but I'm super excited to welcome Yolanda Wisher with us today, who is here, and we're super excited. She is a prolific poet, and I'm going to have her introduce herself. Um, just a little bit and just what she does and how she does it. So, welcome, Yolanda, to I Am Luna You. I'm super excited that you are
Thank
here.
you for having me.
Yeah. Now tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and just what makes you you.
I'm a poet, I'm an educator, I'm a band leader, and I'm a curator, and I'm based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Nice, nice, nice. That's great. Awesome. I love you have this like prolific way of just telling a story and just like your poetry is just amazing. I got to hear you at the Biff Storyteller Conference and I was just like captivated. I'm just like, yes. And so just the story and the story too of just Black women and Latino women are for maternal health sake, a little bit about why we do what we do is that the rates are alarming when it comes to our Black and Latino women for maternal morbidity or maternal complications as it relates to birth, and how we look at status, education, income levels, and none of that compares to just them not being heard simply because of the color of their skin. And as soon as a woman walks into whether that's a medical care facility, there's a million microaggressions thrown at her, or biases thrown at her, or judgment thrown at her. And so that's why we exist. We help to give them the power, straight facts about themselves, where they get to own their own data and come in with the full knowledge of themselves, with something as basic as, yes, I have been active. Yes, I do know my blood pressure. Does your blood pressure match with my blood pressure? That I think I know what my normal is, I know how I feel, and I'm able to like advocate for myself. And so that's why we love to tell stories of all types of women, so that people are able to see that motherhood comes in all different shapes, all different sizes, and that no one story is the same.
Mm.
And that's just been the beauty of Luna You. So, can you tell us a little bit just about like this, like storytelling and why it's important to you?
I mean, I grew up with storytellers. That's how we communicate, whether it's the true story that you're telling or some kind of tall tale version of it. Storytelling, just in my family, was a way to commune, um, a way to remember people. That's mostly the function for me of storytelling. I love telling stories about my great aunts who have passed on, my
Mm.
grandmother. The stories are the currency, this love currency that we share, especially when people pass on or they move away. So, yeah, storytelling is everything. It's a very powerful thing. It's political, it's personal. Um, Story is, I had an old teacher friend, English teacher friend that I would teach with, and he would always say, story is the organizing principle of our lives, like in that Joseph Campbell mythology kind of realm of thought. So, yeah, I don't think I could live without story.
Yeah, yeah. So can you share a little bit about your story and your whole birthing experience and just your time with that?
Whew, yes. I mean, all the stuff that you described about the reason for the program, I wish I'd had a program like that when I um, decided to have a child. And um, I was so excited about getting pregnant and excited about this experience, and knew kind of inherently that I would only do it once. That was just kind of a personal decision. And so I knew that I wanted to have a spectacular experience.
Mhm.
And from the gate, other women were kind of telling me to like manage they were trying to manage my expectations because I guess they knew what was headed for me in terms of the
Mhm.
experience, and how very different it could be for everybody. It is a very individual and personal thing. But I remember the experience of just doing what was expected, going to my doctor and then getting kind of part of, getting scheduled for prenatal visits. And finding out right away that the doctor that I initially met with might not be the doctor that would deliver my baby. And
Mhm.
that freaked me out immediately. And I was just kind of, it was just like, you were supposed to deal with it. You were just kind of told that's how you're supposed to see this happening. My vision was very different. And right there, I think is something, this idea of like, if you have a vision of how you want to have your baby, why isn't that
Mhm.
possible for you as a woman? Why are you told how you must have your baby? Yeah, of course, I think people who are having babies are thinking about the safety of themselves and their children, but we should be able to envision how that experience of childbirth, how we want to bring this being into the world, should be our choice.
Yeah.
And we should have the resources and the choices to make and all of that,
Mhm.
instead of just one defined path. So I was showed that path. It looked really kind of sketchy to me that I would have to build relationships with all of these different doctors, and it would be kind of a random luck of the draw of who I would get. I also just started feeling all of those microaggressions in the office of people not remembering your name, or assuming that you had a certain level of education. None of the things that I had accomplished as a poet or a writer, as an educator, as a woman really mattered when I walked in there. I was just a pregnant Black woman.
Yeah.
And that came with a set of stereotypes that I didn't even realize I had no control over. Um, and that was also something like my vision of my pregnant self was not the image that was being projected to me by the nurses and the doctors that I encountered. I
Mhm.
didn't start to see that vision of the pregnant me that I really wanted to be until I started working with a midwife. And it was after just sitting in a doctor's office with a cup of tea for way too long, maybe about an hour, and
Wow.
3 different nurses forgetting my name that day, and this was maybe my 3rd or 4th appointment, so none of these folks knew me or my baby, there wasn't a sense of, uh, something coming up, that a new addition to the community. There was no community there. As soon as I linked into a midwife in Philadelphia, I had an instant community of other midwives, doulas, other folks who were looking into having home births that we were in class and communion with. So, yeah, I mean, my birth was this amazing experience at home. I envisioned it with Stevie Wonder and um, candles and incense. I didn't get all of that. I did
Mhm.
get the birth pool and the birth tub and the midwife and the fruits and the nuts afterwards when my baby was born. And
Yeah.
um, it felt like an amazing, powerful choice that I was able to make. But
Mhm.
it also I had to make that choice because the traditional path that was open to me was so fraught with problems and misperceptions about who I was, that
Yeah.
I just didn't think that was a healthy path for me to go down. And I often think about what would have happened if I'd gone down that traditional route and had my baby in the hospital, and me and my Black husband showing up in the hospital, and what kind of racism and microaggressions would we experience that I know friends of mine have experienced. And that's another layer on top of the experience of birth and the stress of birth, and all that tension that happens that you just don't need as a person, as a
Exactly.
family.
Yeah, pregnancy is it's a lot on the body as it is, and the last thing you need is that additional stress. I too went through the midwife road when I was going to the doctor, and it just felt so cold that I was just like, just something on a clipboard, like, okay, you're this many weeks, check. check.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
See you next time, maybe. And I'm just like, no. And I met my midwife, who is like my really good friend now. And she was a Black woman. And it was just like, there was comfort in that she was just a Black woman. I don't have to keep explaining my story. She already knows like cultural norms. I could just give her a side eye and like, girl, now sis, like, look,
Mhm.
she knows like these things that we kind of just understand.
Right.
Um, but it's a lot, and we have a lot of women in in these same situations, but they really don't even know that there is an additional like way out. Now I know in Rhode Island that home births are kind of limited. There's like one or two places that you can go that will allow you to do home births, like on the legal route. But how can a woman, if they feel like, this is not, I'm in this one area and I just don't feel like this is right for me, what are some steps that they could take to just, speak up for themselves?
Well, you need to get informed. First of all, you need to be your own best advocate. And, I think that, for me, that meant I got so frustrated with the experience of going to the hospital that I just got online and I just started searching for random stuff like other ways to have a baby besides the hospital. Like, and that led me to a midwife in Philadelphia. And then I had other questions like, what do midwives do? Which I wanted to know before I even had a conversation. So I had to take that initial step of wanting to be informed and wanting to ask hard questions or what might appear to be stupid questions. I had to take responsibility for my own body and my own child's future. I couldn't leave that to somebody else's care. And I think it seems like an obvious thing, but I feel like, when you're pregnant, you may feel really vulnerable. You may feel like you need to turn your power over to somebody else, whether that's your partner or your mother-in-law or your mom or somebody else probably in your mind at the beginning of that process knows way better than you what you need. And but maybe about a little bit ways in when you've made some sacrifices with your body, when you're starting to really get a sense of your own power, you can have a sense that yeah, you can change the way this thing is going to turn out. It's not just something that you can um you can just leave for somebody else to decide for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's powerful that you are able, and it's a lot of times like whether this is your first baby to your 10th baby, each pregnancy is different, right? So you could have gone through something before and it could be completely different the next time around. And so we're realizing that, and that's a lot of things that I like coach women through, where it's like, see yourself like you don't know what you don't know, right? You haven't been pregnant with this baby before.
Yep.
You haven't been pregnant like this before in this time, especially with COVID. And that's another thing too. Like COVID-19 has put on a whole nother layer of things that just have come about in terms of, not even having someone that you care about, not a partner that can even come to you with appointments, and limiting like what information gets told to you, where women can't even record what they hear in an appointment so that they can even take it back to share with their significant other and their partner in the
Yeah.
whole process. So that limits you, that strips you, so you don't even know what to ask, how to ask. Did they hear the same thing that you heard? Can you advocate what was done? How can you communicate better? Um, None of that. And that's a whole nother layer. So women right off the bat who are giving birth in COVID are just like strong anyway, as it is. But then having to navigate through all of this has been just really hard and really, really important. How do you suggest women tell their story? Like, is that writing it down? Do they tell, like, how do we get that story out?
However feels most comfortable. I I wrote my birth story as a poem because that's what I do and that's what felt natural to me. And but I also read a lot of stories that were, just narratives. They were little short autobiographies of people's births. And that was really powerful for me in order to just read these little paragraphs that people described, when labor started and, to the point where the baby emerged.
Mhm.
and everything that happened in that, like the bodily experiences, the out of body experiences, who was in the room, the funny stuff that happened, the spiritual stuff that happened. I think, however, whatever felt most present, most revelatory, is worthy of being documented. I
I love
think
that.
somebody will want to know one day the
Yeah.
circumstances of their birth and what it took to bring them here. I certainly love hearing that story from my mother. And
Yeah.
so I was always very conscious of the fact that I want to be able to tell that story. It's a delicious story for us to tell our child now, who's 10.
What
And,
a great gift.
and
Yeah.
he loves to tell it himself. He loves the poem that I wrote. And he's like, that's my poem. That's the poem that, came
I
about because
love
of me.
that.
There's something really intimate about birth. There's something as intimate about sharing the birth story, and such a powerful way to inspire other people who are going to give birth. We need those stories, and we need all of the ways that they happen. Everybody's story is so different. I needed to see that some people's stories were interrupted, or they were 16-hour stories. Some people's stories were 5-hour stories. Some people's stories involved a cheesesteak and a run to the cheesecake factory. Like, I need to hear all of that when I'm in the middle of this, about to do something I've never done before.
Right.
Something new. Even if I've done it before, it's something I haven't done before.
Yeah, yeah, that's I love that. It's like you're valuable enough to tell your story. Like
Oh, yeah.
I love that so much. And thank you so much just for your time, Yolanda, and just saying those words where it's just what a special gift to give to your child, to give to your family, to continue the story. And what a way to like take the power back and saying, this is my narrative. This is my story. This is my
Yes.
song. This is what, is all about. This is the way in my journey in which we can all help each other kind of in this community. Thank you just so much, Yolanda, just for those words, for your time. We like to end every session by saying that you are magical, and you, Yolanda, are definitely magical, just for sharing your time and your story with us, and are a part of our maternal health community and our circle, and just making each other better. So thank you so much just for your time and your energy and your space, to be with us. Thank you, everybody, for joining in and listening. To learn more or to join in on the effort, go to www.lunau.com. Thank you so much, Yolanda. Thank you.
Thank you, sis.